Hello, this is Ron Paul with your weekly update from Monday, October 2nd. What did Washington achieve in its 6-year war on Syria? Now that the defeat of ISIS in Syria appears imminent, with the Syrian army clearing out some of the last ISIS strongholds in the east, Washington's interventionists are searching for new excuses to maintain the illegal U.S. military presence in the country. Their original rationale for intervention has long been exposed as another lie. Remember that President Obama initially involved the U.S. military in Iraq as in Syria to prevent genocide of the Yazidis and promised the operation would not drift into U.S. boots on the ground. That was 3 years ago, and the U.S. military became steadily more involved while Congress continued to dodge its constitutional obligations. The U.S. even built military bases in Syria despite having no permission to do so. Imagine if Syria started building military bases here in the United States against our wishes. After 6 years of war, the Syrian government has nearly defeated ISIS and al-Qaeda, and the U.S.-backed moderates turned out to be either Islamist extremists or Kurdish soldiers for hire. According to a recent report, the U.S. has shipped $2 billion in weapons to fighters in Syria via Eastern Europe. Much of these weapons ended up in the hands of ISIS directly or indirectly through moderates, taking their weapons with them while joining ISIS or al-Qaeda. Assad must go, proclaimed President Obama back in 2011 as he claimed that the Syrian leader was committing genocide against his own people and that regime change was the only way to save Syrians. Then earlier this year, when eastern Aleppo was about to be liberated by the Syrian government, the neocons warned that Assad would move in and kill all the inhabitants. They warned that the population of eastern Aleppo would flee from the Syrian army. But something very different happened according to the UN's International Organization for Migration. 600,000 refugees returned to Syria by August. Half of the returnees went back to Aleppo, where we were told Assad was waiting to kill them. What happened? The neocons and humanitarian interventionists lied, just as they lied about Libya, Iraq, and so on. While it was mostly ignored by the mainstream media, just this week a Christian was elected Speaker of the Syrian Parliament. The new Speaker is a 50-year-old Orthodox Christian law graduate and member of President Assad's Ba'ath Party. How many Christians does our ally Saudi Arabia have in its parliament? Oh, that's right. Saudi Arabia has no elected parliament. Why does it seem that U.S. policy in the Middle East always hurts Christians the most? In Iraq, Christians suffered disproportionately from the 2003 U.S. invasion. In fact, there are hardly any Christians left. Why aren't more U.S. Christian groups demanding that the U.S. get out of the Middle East? The U.S. is not about to leave on its own. With ISIS all but defeated in Syria, many in Washington are calling for the U.S. military to continue its illegal occupation of parts of the country to protect against Iranian influence. Of course, before the U.S. military action in Iraq and Syria, there was far less Iranian influence in the region. So U.S. foreign interventionism is producing new problems that can only be solved by more U.S. interventionism. The military-industrial complex could not have dreamed of a better scheme to rob the American people while enriching themselves. What have we achieved in Syria? Nothing good. Thanks for calling this update.